Hello and welcome to the Beat Cancer Answer, brought to you by BeatCancer.Org, the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education. We believe that 90% of all cancers could be eliminated through environmental and lifestyle choices alone, and science agrees. Unfortunately, most people don't know it, so we provide the education that can help you prevent, cope with, and beat cancer through diet, lifestyle, and other immune-boosting approaches. On every podcast, we will feature an expert who can teach us how to become part of that 90% who could prevent getting diagnosed with cancer. If you already have cancer, we have empowering information for you too. Over the past 35 years, we have helped thousands of cancer patients get back into the driver's seat when it comes to their personal journey of healing cancer and preventing future reoccurrence. Debbie Melamed interviews Cortney Campbell, the anti-cancer mom, about her natural non-toxic healing approach after being diagnosed with stage 2 NLP Hodgkin's lymphoma at the age of 26.
Today we have with us Courtney, otherwise known as Anti-Cancer Mom. Courtney was diagnosed in 2008 with nodular lymphocyte-predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. She was only 26 years old, newly married, and facing infertility from the 3 months of chemotherapy and radiation that were recommended. Courtney decided to try a natural, non-toxic healing approach on a trial basis for 3 months. She improved and also found out in her fourth month of natural treatment that she was pregnant. She continued on her natural, non-toxic journey, and by month 6, she was declared in clinical remission with a clean bill of health. She started her website, Anti-Cancer Mom, in 2011 to let people know that they can recover from cancer using a natural approach, and her website provides resources and a plan to do so. She stresses that a whole-body approach to cancer is the only way a person can truly heal, and teaches how to make permanent changes to your diet, lifestyle, and thinking habits to keep cancer from returning. You can also find Anti-Cancer Mom on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. So welcome, Courtney. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hey, Debbie. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Great. This is wonderful. We're very excited to hear your story and how you beat cancer using an alternative approach. And you have 3 beautiful daughters today, too, so this is a very inspirational story. It seems like the idea of infertility was the sticking point with you and especially your husband that maybe prompted you to go the non-toxic natural approach. Maybe you can tell us more about your story.
Sure. So like you said, in 2008, I found a lump in my armpit that was not there the last time I had felt my armpit. It seemed like it had popped up pretty suddenly, and that began the journey of a series of tests and biopsies, and it took several weeks to confirm my diagnosis of a more indolent, which is slow-growing form of Hodgkin's lymphoma. But you wouldn't have known that with how aggressive the doctors were trying to push me into chemo and radiation pretty much immediately. And the big point for me that I kept, at the time, I didn't know anything I knew today about nutrition or I didn't even take a vitamin, maybe a Flintstone vitamin, I don't know. But it was, just a totally different thought process that, I lived by back then. Diet Cokes and lean cuisine, microwave dinners for lunch. I mean, it was pretty drastic.
The midstream lifestyle, the mainstream.
Yeah. I was 26. I just was only married for 2 months when all this started happening, and it was the consultation with the oncologist doesn't do the tour of the chemo room and here's the wig shop and all that. They let their nurses do that, and so the nurse is walking us. It was a male nurse. He sat us down and told us all about the different side effects I would be having. Like, you'll have mouth sores, but we have medication for that, and you'll have anxiety most likely, but we have medication for that, and you'll have irritation in your digestive system. Your stomach lining is going to be affected by the chemos, but we have medicine for that. And I still have everything. I was just looking through what I called my cancer schmancer cancer schmancer binder, and I have all my stuff in there. I was just looking through it the other day, and it was like 12 pages of side effects and what they do to help it.
I'm curious, did they try and tell you what would happen if you didn't do the chemo, or did they tell you like how long you had to live if you didn't, or were there any scare tactics?
Well, this is the thing, is that my oncologist had only seen 2 other people in his entire, I don't know, he's been practicing for 10 years or so, that had ever had my type of cancer. And so he consulted with his advisors at MD Anderson, which is like, the Uber hospital for cancer everyone thinks is the best, which it may be for what their needs are. I don't know, but for my needs, it was just they had verified this extreme chemotherapy, and I think I didn't even answer your question, but they.
I was just wondering if you kind of felt bullied or.
Thank you for going back. I'm kind of switching from mom mode to adult mode here.
I understand.
My brain's a little scattered.
This is real life stuff.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel bullied, but I felt like they thought I was an idiot or something for not listening to them, because they couldn't quite understand. And it really, I have to say this because it really wasn't me that had the doubts. I was like, let's just get this show on the road, get it out of me, put the port in, let's get this chemo going, like that. That was seriously how I felt. My husband of 2 months was the one who was very persistent. Even we got in the worst arguments those first couple weeks when he started telling me he just didn't feel like this was right. And what he didn't tell me, and this is where it gets a little woo-woo, but he said that this is what he said it's never happened again till this day, but as we were walking through the chemotherapy room, the nurse was giving us a tour and saying, oh, look at these plush recliners and look at the view, and everybody gets their own personal TV. And Kevin, my husband, said that he just heard, he called it a really strong impression that was completely perpendicular to what he was thinking at the time, but he said it was almost audible. And we're strong believers in God, so we now 8 years later know that this was a very divine providential thing, but the voice or this audible impression said, this is not for you. And he said it was right as we were walking in the chemo room, and so that was sort of what he based his own strong distaste to everything that we are being presented with, that voice or that impression or whatever it was. We believe it was God. We don't tell this story very often. I don't even have it on my blog, but I'm telling you because it's such a huge part of our story that was what really was the foundation of what we built the process this journey that we started on pretty much that day, to saying no to the conventional oncologist and to the plan. I mean, when we came out of the chemo room, we went into the wig shop, and he said, oh, here's the wig shop. And then he said, okay, now go here. I'm going to refer you to the fertility specialist, because you may want to consider either freezing your embryos or eggs, because there's 30 to 70% chances, the number they gave us, that your body will go into premature menopause. Basically, your ovaries, we're going to shut your ovaries down with this drug, and then we hope it will come back. We hope that your menstrual cycle will come back and your fertility. So that was really the basis of our story, and what led us down this road into natural alternative treatments, which is probably too long of a story to tell on this podcast. But
that's really daunting for someone that's 26 years old. I mean, sometimes a person's older and they don't have to deal with all these issues, but that's a lot of complications. And a lot of big decisions to make for someone that's 26 years old and newly married.
Yes, and for me, I just wanted, but I still, even after Kevin telling me that he just really didn't feel right, he had this impression, this like really strong, almost audible impression of, we're not supposed to do this, this is not for you. I still was in the panic mode of, I just want it out of me, get it out of me, let's get this going. I don't want to experiment with anything that is unproven. I was definitely in that camp for a while. The oncologist says, because we did talk about this with the oncologist at our next appointment, because we had still not made an appointment with the fertility specialist, and we still hadn't made an appointment for the port to be put in, and he was kind of wondering, like, okay, what are you guys waiting for? And we said, we want to know what you think about this alternative treatment or anything. We really didn't know what alternative treatment was. We just said we want an alternative to chemotherapy. That's what felt the most wrong to us. And he just basically said, I don't have any experience in this. And so it wasn't this, there was no animosity.
That's honest, I guess.
Yeah, he did. He was very honest. He didn't belittle us. I hear these horror stories about what oncologists say to people, and they get upset, and they, and I guess maybe for me, because my cancer was less aggressive, I had some time, so it wasn't, being really persistent.
I see.
Anyway, but
That's
yeah.
interesting. So your husband really had some powerful messages really going through his whole being. And maybe because it wasn't him that had the cancer, he wasn't as quite in a panic and maybe was able to hear the message.
Yeah, and to think clearly.
And what a blessing for you. That's really
totally
wonderful.
He definitely was my advocate through the whole thing. Just real solid rock. I needed that because I was more emotional and I was.
So he was in your life for a reason.
Oh, definitely, totally.
Amazing. I love all that.
Yeah, me too.
You have to go to the spiritual because there's such a part of that in this. I mean, it is such a scary thing, and I guess it makes you want to think about God and how that affects our lives. And
you know what, Debbie? I also think, this is fast forwarding a bit, but when people are considering alternative cancer protocols or just almost like what we refer to as like a lifestyle change to heal cancer, it's not like I didn't really use any alternative treatments. I didn't go get vitamin C IVs or I didn't go to Mexico and go to a clinic. I basically just changed my whole lifestyle, especially my diet. I did some detoxing, and then of course I developed such a strong prayer life and really just trusting and trying not to just control everything. You just have to release and let it go. When Frozen.
That seems like a really big aspect to healing.
Yeah, that song "Let It Go." To be honest, as a mother of 3 girls, when I heard it for the first time, I was just like, yes, that's what it's all about. Like, let it go, and you can't control everything.
So I guess your husband was very supportive in your natural protocols and the things that you were doing day to day. Did he help you research things? How did you start to come up with a protocol?
Yeah, he was fortunate enough to work at a church at the time that was really compassionate to what we were going through, being like newlyweds and cancer. And so he was able to research almost 24/7 for the first couple of weeks, and all these books started coming to our house. And at this time, I was healing from my biopsy. They cut about, a lemon-sized tumor. Well, it was a tumor, but a lymph node out of my armpit. That's how I found it. And I was just kind of like in just complete la-la land, just going to work, like dealing with all this emotion. So luckily he was able to research for me, and I wasn't that into it, honestly. I was just like, no, whatever. It was a hard couple of weeks before we finally made the decision.
I'm sure it was.
And, he probably ordered over 20 books coming, Amazon Prime had just started kind of kicking in around that time. So we got all these books from Amazon, and there was one book. I happened to get home early from work one day, and he was not home, and it was the one book on our doorstep. And I opened it up, and it was Bill Henderson's book, Cancer-Free, Your Guide to Gentle Non-Toxic Healing. And I figured, I might as well, have nothing else to do right now. Let me just open the book, and I just, gobbled it up. I read that book in, 2 days probably. I don't know exactly, but he just made so much sense to me, and I trusted him. I was so skeptical. Who's going to make money off of me? And they're selling this supplement and claiming it's, and I had read all the Quack Watch and, all those more skeptical science blog or whatever, all those. I had read them and read all these, they were
You didn't know who to trust. And again, I guess you have to go with your gut.
Yeah, but I was just such a skeptic. I just didn't trust. I didn't trust it. I really did have this, if my doctor went to school all these years and learned all this stuff, and everything else is conspiracy. I was so bought into the medical model, and I didn't want to trust. And my husband had always been a more he just had always been a little bit more, not a conspiracy theorist, but he just was open to the truth. Like, you know, you can't trust the mainstream media. You know, he's always been like that, very skeptical in his own way. And I was skeptical of the opposite side. So it was a fun time for us.
Yeah, oh, I bet.
Yeah, and but
so this book kind of, you started to trust. You felt something in your gut that switched your mindset.
Yeah. Bill's story really resonated with me because he had lost his first wife from cancer and all the medical treatment. So he had been down that road. And he really spelled that out at the beginning of his book. And it resonated with me because I had lost family members to the conventional cancer model as well and saw what they went through. And so that really brought me kind of, at least opened my mind up a little bit to maybe believing some of the stuff he was teaching. And by the end of the book, I said, you know what? I felt the most peace was just saying, well, let's find the gray area here. Like, it's not this way or that way. Let's find the gray area and say, let me give us a 3-month trial. That was what I was comfortable with, and see how diet changed. That made a lot of sense to me. My digestion was really messed up to the point I wouldn't have a bowel movement for 3 or 4 days, and I had horrible gas. And as a newlywed, that's not very sexy.
Right.
Let's be honest. So I bought in. I was like, you know what, maybe it is my digestion. I thought it was cancer all over my digestive system, and then we got the PET scan results back, and there was nothing in my digestive system. So I was like, well, my diet could use some polishing up. Let's give this a try. And so we bought all the supplements, and it was pretty when it was? It was November 4th, 2008. It was election day, the day Barack Obama was elected, and I remember choking down my cottage cheese flaxseed oil and eating all these salads I hated so much, and watching Michelle and Barack Obama do their little acceptance speech. I mean, I remember it so clearly. It was like such a chapter marker for me in my life.
Wow.
But yeah.
Did you start juicing right away?
I didn't know. We didn't have a juicer. Bill Henderson's protocol is very laid out in his book, and he didn't really recommend juicing. He just kept it super simple. It was just lots and lots of raw vegetables and colorful salads. And so that's what I started at, and I couldn't even get those down. I'm not kidding. I didn't eat salads or anything before that, and so all this was really extreme for me.
Wow, that is extreme.
I had a hard time. What actually saved me was probably a week later after that. I had lost like 5 pounds in a week because I choked down the cottage cheese and gagged and threw up a few times. The cottage cheese flaxseed oil blend, the Budwig is what we call it.
You didn't love it.
Dr. Joanna Budwig, and her theory of the oxygenation of cells, and she figured out a way to get the oxygen to the cell. And so anyway, it was just real tough. And my blog initially, when I started in 2011, was called Green Drink Diaries, because the green drink of what I basically did was put all of those vegetables into a blender, and I put some water in it one night, and I blended it up, and I could get down a salad that would take me 2 hours to choke down at that time. I could just hold my nose and chug it down in about 5 minutes. And so it saved my life. That green smoothie, or green drink is what I used to call it, saved my life, because I was just like, I wasn't going to make it on this protocol if it weren't for that. And I
Did you see a change in your digestion then?
Maybe it's slight, but when I really noticed a change, that was in November. So November and December, I still kind of had the gas problem, and definitely my digestion was a little bit more frequent because I had so much fiber. But I think my adjusting to raw foods like that so quickly was really hard. And I hear from people who read my blog the same thing, like, raw foods is just not, my body doesn't like it. And I'm like, it's because it's not used to it. And so what really helped me and aided me was a series of colonics, of hydrocolon therapy. I did 7 colonics in the course of 2 weeks. So basically every other day I did a colonic. And after that, my digestion was completely perfect.
Now, were you doing that at home, or did you go somewhere to do that?
I went to a hydrocolon therapist.
Okay, so you started to detoxify.
Yeah, that was part of the detox. I didn't even know what detox was. Bill Henderson didn't even really talk about it much in his book. It was very much, and I will say that his book was at the time the 3rd edition, and now he's recently passed last year, but his 4th edition updates a little bit more on the detoxification process. But I give a lot of credit to him because he's what really got me started on this journey, and he was someone I trusted.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Did you do anything spiritual at the time?
I think it was a very close time with God for me because, in those times that I would start to panic or start to wonder, like, what if this doesn't work, Lord? I just would I would just talk to him all day long. And at the time, I didn't really I read the Bible, but maybe if I heard a scripture at church or something like that, I would, see that. But I really didn't dig into what God's Word says about this. And it's so clear that He wants healing for us. And so, now I would have approached this differently. I think there's a lot more, so many more resources regarding like healing scripture, or even if you're, even if it's just a healing affirmation. I know, you can just by repeating just words that are comforting to your spirit and
right.
Or tell the truth about your healing. Like, I am healed. My body knows what it's doing. I'm giving it everything it needs to thrive and to heal and to repair itself. Things like that. And you just write it on a card and repeat it. So, no matter your belief system, there's ways that you can speak to that, that spirit in you. And
yeah, they say a negative thought can kill you faster than anything. So even if you're doing everything right, your mindset has to be in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely.
So how has your protocol? I'm sure it's evolved immensely.
Yeah.
What are your main things that you do, or that you did then that got you through till today?
Well, I can run through what I did then, and I will say that I stuck with my protocol for, I would say, close to 5 years.
Okay.
Pretty strict. I think after my daughter was born, I went through a season of morning sickness too for about 6 weeks, which I could barely stomach anything, and I wrote about this on my blog, and somehow I still persevered. I picked right once I could start stomaching the green stuff again after my morning sickness passed. I just picked right back up where I was. There were 2 things part of my protocol initially that I think were just a huge part of my success that I had to stop when I was pregnant. I'm sorry, one thing that I had to stop when I was pregnant, which was the Essiac-T. Okay. And you can't use that when you're pregnant or nursing. You know what it was too? It was the vitamins. I went on a prenatal for a good while because I just wasn't quite sure about the folate and the vitamins, but because Bill Henderson had recommended a certain kind of vitamins, but I don't even know if that's as important as just making sure that if I were to go about it now, I would have gone to a naturopath, had all my vitamin levels tested, and see where I needed supplementation.
Right.
Bill tries to keep his protocol really simple, so it kind of gives you like a blanket recommendation for everybody, because he wants everybody to be able to do this, not just people who can afford to go to a naturopath and get tested.
Yeah.
I'll just give you a quick rundown of everything I did. First thing every morning I would take beta-1 3D glucan from Transfer Point supplement. It basically teaches your immune system and increases the receptor sites on certain immune cells to help find the cancer more easily. And I love beta-glucan. It not only works for just cancer, but for just boosting your immune system in general. I actually ran out 2 weeks ago, and if you recall, we were supposed to have this interview last week. I ran out 2 weeks ago, and 2 days later, I got like the worst cold and cough.
How about that?
I was down and out, and I lost my voice, so we couldn't do our interview last week. But here I am now. I'm feeling much better, but it was
because beta-glucan back.
My beta-glucan ran out, and so I'm actually hoping my shipment gets here any day now. But You can find that on my blog if you're interested, if anyone listening to this is interested in it. But it's one thing I would never, ever stop taking. So there's that, and then I would wait 30 minutes, and then I would do SEXP, and I would take that every morning and afternoon and night at the time of my healing, just like a really intense. And that is a detox tea that was very made popular in the early 20th century by a nurse named Renee, and I'm sure, I don't know how quite to pronounce her name, but Kaisi, and Esiac is her name spelled backwards.
Yes.
So I would take that 2 or 3 times a day, I would say, and then a very strict, raw, organic, almost vegan diet, no meat, no sugar, no processed foods, no cooked foods, no dairy, except for the cottage cheese, the organic cottage cheese, and flaxseed oil in the Budwig mixture, which I ate every morning. And that was 2/3 cup of organic cottage cheese and 6 tablespoons of flaxseed oil. And then I did I would wait a little while, and then I would take all my supplements, vitamin C, higher dose vitamin C with green tea. That was based on Linus Pauling's research. The barley, just a barley supplement for alkalizing the body. And then a multivitamin, the one Bill Henderson recommended was Dr. David Williams' Daily Advantage. And then, of course, I did the colonics at some point. I did a big couple of weeks of detox. We bought an alkaline water machine. Nowadays, I probably would have just bought a Berkey filter because it filters out fluoride. We actually found out 7 years after we bought our alkaline water machine that it didn't have a fluoride filter on it. And so all those years we were, drinking fluoride. Yeah, so it was a little disappointing. But and then we bought a Cellar Sizer, which is a rebounding trampoline. And
yes,
on that all the
I've
time.
been looking at those. I think I'm going to buy one. They look really, really neat.
Yeah, we have it in our living room. If we were on Skype right now, I'm looking at it right now.
So that's so everyone knows it's a little mini trampoline that is supposed to help the lymphatic system to get your fluid going to detoxify. So it's kind of supposed to clean every cell in your body.
Yeah, your immune system doesn't have its own pump like the heart, has a pump to your blood. The lymph
has to keep moving, and you had a big lymph node taken from under your arm, right? You said. Yeah,
and I had swollen lymph nodes in my neck too.
So then it's even more important, they say.
Oh yeah, and so this whole time of this process, I was able to monitor my progression of what I was doing with the lymph nodes in my neck that were swollen. Or it was actually one lymph node that was palpable, and then there was some other residual kind of activity. But and so over the course of the first 3 months, it completely shrunk to the touch. And I will say there was a time where I went off of Esiac and off of Budwig because I went to the Living Foods Institute here in Atlanta and did their detoxification protocol, and they asked that everybody go off all dairy and any sort of teas and stuff that they're on. And so I stopped it, and my lymph node grew back during that time.
Really?
Yes. And so people need to just pay. I do not believe that all protocols are created equal. I think that people need to pray, just feel, you just will know that gut feeling that you're on your right track. I believe that God drops little breadcrumbs for you to follow when you're healing like this, and you're in His will, and you're praying to Him, and you're talking to Him. And that He will, and that's what happened for me. I started noticing, like, okay, this is great that they recommended I go off all dairy and all, everything. But for my body, I just listened to my body and knew that, okay, here it comes, it's coming back. So I went as soon as that. It was about 2 weeks of detoxification. I went and I went right back on the Budwig protocol and right back on FDXT. And the reason I say that that was what worked for me then. Something really interesting has happened recently after my 3rd daughter, where I started having some funny symptoms after she was born, and I started having a really strong aversion to both dairy and wheat, because I was eating every now and then. I would have like some cereal, like a organic cereal or something, because when you're a mom of 3, life is not as easy and not as all about me as it was when I had no children. I was doing my cancer protocol, and even I went the first 4.5 years after my cancer diagnosis with just either no children or one child. And it was after my second daughter was born that I was like, oh my gosh, if people knew that I've been to Chick-fil-A and I ate a salad at Chick-fil-A, but still, what would people say? And, they knew when I had morning sickness with my second daughter, I was so sick. I remember my husband we were coming back from a road trip, and he wanted to, he was like, I just have to have a cheeseburger at Wendy's. And I was sitting there, and, here it is. I was probably 4 years out from my cancer diagnosis. I had never had a hamburger or anything like that, and it was all I wanted to eat. I had literally opened my car door and had to throw up out the car door in the line at Wendy's. I was so sick, and I was like, you know what, I just can't eat anything, but that cheeseburger sounds really good. And I ate it, and I'm not recommending this to anybody. I'm just saying real life happens. Life changes, and you just have to listen.
Sometimes you have to get by.
Yeah, you have to,
And you weren't in crisis then either.
No, I was 4 years out. I was on my protocol hardcore, I would say, for about four years, and even into the fifth year after the morning sickness. That morning sickness time is really hard for me, and I get it horribly. I don't know why some women do and some don't, but
yeah, that's rough.
I'm kind of rambling, but you got to laugh.
It's not really one cheeseburger that's going to get somebody into trouble with a lifestyle type of cancer, which is what most cancer is, a lifestyle choice issue.
Right.
Right. I mean, if you're eating great all the time and you have one cheeseburger, that's not the problem. So I'm sure that, that wasn't, well, you said you had more symptoms then after your third daughter?
So what I'm just trying to say, I don't want to go into this now, but and I haven't written about this very publicly on my blog, but since my third daughter was born, it's been 2 years. She actually had her second birthday yesterday, and I've struggled with different symptoms, which we're now realizing we've been suspicious all along, but I had the basic thyroid tests done, and they all came out fine. And the longer time has gone by, I have these, like I was saying, listen to your body. I had really strong aversions to the Budwig. I had to stop eating the Budwig mixture, which I had eaten for 7 years, which I believe was, helping me keep my cancer away. And also, like I was saying, if any time I would have even a little tiny bit of like a cereal or wheat product, I would just feel sick. And, I'd always been able to eat some like Ezekiel bread or toast with my, with a salad or something. This is a treat. And my body started sending me these signals of, I don't think this is for you right now. Something's going on. And so anyway, we're now investigating like what's going on with my thyroid health, which is very common even on a diet like mine, to have thyroid symptoms, especially if it's in your family, which it is, to look into that and, get further testing. So that's what I'm currently doing, but I have had to, you just have to listen to where your body is at that moment. 8 years ago, my body just loved everything that was on my cancer protocol, and right now I'm just going to have to go, I'm looking into a different route with, as far as what I'm going to do next. So anyway, it's a little off topic. But
I have thyroid. I'm hypothyroid. I have Hashimoto's. So, and I think that can happen after childbirth. Your hormones change. That is a great point. Your body changes. So if you're always listening to it, then you're open to what to change next. So that's a great point.
Yeah, it's the reason I say this whole story is that, going all raw vegan and, juicing, and so many people respond well to that. I would say more than not, really do well healing their body through those methods. But some people need different things. Some people won't respond to, like the Budwig protocol. It's, the research is 60 plus years old, and it has been, checked out here and there. But for me, it worked great when it came to my cancer, and it was where I believe God had me at that time. But now I'm listening again and going, okay, maybe, something shifted. My hormones are shifting. I've had 3 babies. Maybe I went 4 years between pregnant nursing without a menstrual cycle.
Right.
Coming back out of that, like what's going on with my hormones and how has that affected my thyroid and what's going on with my adrenals? And so now I'm investigating that and learning so much, of course. I'm excited to share it.
It's another healing journey because it's quite a stress on the body.
It is. It's this new, healing journey I'm on. But anyway, with all that said, just everyone is different. Look at what, look at what your breadcrumbs are. Where are your breadcrumbs sending you,
No, that's a great point. It really is. So you are going through this protocol with 3 children. Can you give us any tips for making the protocol work and sticking to it when you're a busy mom and when people are working?
Yeah, you just have to honor yourself. Like being a mom and working, or just even, not being a mom, just being a partner or whatever. And especially as a woman, I mean, that's where my heart really lies, is with women, with families that are going through this healing journey, whether it's from Hashimoto's or whether it's from cancer or whether it's from, diabetes or whatever it is, that we're going through as women. We have to honor ourselves first. So I would say my best tip is to prep and wake up early before anyone else, and you have to give yourself that time to just focus on yourself. And that's not easy, and I'm not good at it every day either.
I just took a deep breath when you said that.
Yeah, like we have to sleep.
It is. It's time to connect with yourself and find some peace.
Yeah, and just have that quiet time, talk to God, center yourself, whatever it is. Some women do yoga.
Positive affirmations.
Yeah, go outside and breathe the fresh air, and then come in and say, okay. And it takes some momentum to work up to this, but you get into a system. For me, I would do this every morning, and I'll just go back to what I would do during the 7 years that I was doing the bud wig and the green smoothie and the all that. And what I would do is every morning I would drink my, if I wasn't nursing or pregnant, which was a good amount of that time, but if I weren't, I would do my Essiac tea first, and I would just sip on it gently. I would get my all my vegetables out, and I would put them in my blender with an apple. It was just a vegetable smoothie, basically, but with an apple for sweetening. And I would make my smoothie up in the morning, and then I would jar it in 2 quart-sized mason jars and put it in my fridge, and that was my lunch. So I knew my lunch was ready. Then after I did that, I would make my Budwig mixture, and by that point, 30 minutes had passed from when I was drinking my tea or I had taken my beta-glucan or whatnot, and I would then I would have my Budwig, and I would read my Bible or my devotional or have that time at the kitchen table, and everyone was still sleeping. And so I had that time to just ground myself every morning and almost bathe yourself in just truth. And then I could serve my family. But by doing that, I took care of my breakfast, my lunch. I laid out my supplements that needed to be taken throughout the day, and all of it was done. And then,
it's nice when you feel organized and prepared for the day, and you've gotten your things taken care of. It just gives some peace, I think.
Yeah, you're not as overwhelmed. You don't feel as out of control. You feel like you're a rock star a little bit.
Right.
Got it together.
Right.
That's a good message to send to yourself.
And when did you do your rebounding or exercising? How did you fit that in?
Well, we always kept it in a place that, even at night, you can watch TV and bounce on the rebounder or, just fitting it in. Nowadays, I still do it every day. We really try to just bounce for at least 3 to 5 minutes.
Yes.
And just get it around. But I also do other exercises too. I love really short bursts of exercise.
Yes.
What I found helpful is my sister-in-law is a Beachbody coach, and she got me into doing the live streaming for Beachbody. So they have 22 or 30-minute workouts that are really intense for those 20 or 30 minutes, and then you're done. So I've been into those lately. Some people, but rebounding was all I did for a really long time as far as exercise. Just bouncing for 20 minutes, and sometimes I put on some great music I loved and just fit it in whenever.
That's great.
Yeah.
How about long term? Do you have any tips for how people can make this work long term, and what kind of helped you with accountability and staying the course?
Wow, that's really great. And I honestly still think about it because there have been seasons where I've even fallen off, where I'm like, eating lots of, for me, my big weakness was like crackers for some reason. I have always stayed away from sugar. I don't eat a ton of meat. But for whatever reason, like boxed organic wheat thins, or it's always been my weakness. You just have to try to keep them out of the house. They somehow always make it back into my house. And it's me. I'm the one that does the grocery shopping, but I'll say, ooh, these are, buy one, get one free, or, organic cheddar squares or whatever they are.
With children packing lunches, it can be difficult.
Yeah, lunches and, snack time. And you need to, I don't know, you got to listen to that. You'll feel the conviction. And for me, it's strong. Like, why am I giving my kids things that I wouldn't even, that I know that are not going to help them? And especially lately with all this looking into thyroid health, I'm like, we don't need gluten and bread around here. And I knew that from the beginning, but I never really had my body never really told me it wasn't okay. So anyway, it's just like, listen to that small, still voice, that little conviction. It won't berate you and flog you, but it's going to be gentle. I think if you just keep your house, lots of fruits and lots of just raw vegetables. If you keep the things in the house that that's what you need to eat, then that's what you'll eat. My girls, I only give them nuts and seeds. I'll tell them, do you want pumpkin seeds or almonds? And so that's their choice. And if I only kept those things in the house for me, that's what I would eat too. As far as long term, another great thing, and this is a pretty new thing, and it's very rapidly growing. Our Healing Strong groups are groups of people that meet in your local communities, local healing support groups. And I know this because my dear friend Susie Griswold and I started Healing Strong along with a team of other people affected by cancer. And I think we have upward of close to 100 groups now all around the United States that meet usually monthly in their own local communities, however they, whatever is best for their community. So that's great for accountability, just those monthly meetings with those like-minded people.
Wonderful.
Yeah, there are also really great Facebook groups. I actually, on my blog, anticancermom.com, you can just look, if you go to the search bar and search tool where it says search my blog on the right side, and you press groups, just put groups in, you'll probably see it. There are tons of online support groups on Facebook particularly that will, with all these like-minded people that it's almost like you wouldn't want them to know it. If you wouldn't want them to know what you're doing, then you're probably not doing the right thing.
Right.
So it's just another bit of accountability. And of course, sometimes it's like the people who are closest to us are the ones that are least accountable and are the ones that are influencing us. And my husband would completely, confess to this, but as time has gone by, it's been over 8 years now. It'll be 9 years this year since my cancer diagnosis. He's been wanting to go out to dinner more and enjoy, the freedom of that. And I have to keep pulling him back and saying, you cannot take me to a restaurant where there's, delicious food, and I'm supposed to just get another salad. That's what I eat all the time, But by keeping me home, at least I know I got my food. It makes me feel good. I don't worry. I don't feel convicted when I eat the food at home. I don't know. You just got to get creative with being creative at home with the food that you know where it came from.
It is really tough when you have someone in your life. I mean, they're there for support, but then they can take you in another direction, like you said, and eating out is so difficult to get it right. I mean, it's very hard to find organic, farm-to-table restaurants where you really trust the restaurant and the purity of the food, and then you don't feel right after. I know I've experienced that a lot, and then you just want to stay home, but then you don't always want to be home. So it's really difficult.
It is, and I think it's just that. It's just flat out difficult, and it's not. And sometimes it's just I don't know, the burden you bear in a way. It is, and it's just this dance too of sometimes I'll get in these really great moods. I mean, for instance, I just had a cancer test this past summer, just in the fall, and I got the results back, and everything was negative, and there was no evidence of any disease, and I was like, oh, I felt this euphoric like burst of energy. Let's go out and let's go out to dinner and let's get dessert. I just wanted to celebrate.
Right.
And it was almost like it was just the beginning of this little decline back into, I felt like I could lay off a little bit, but then I had to realize I got to reel myself back in, so it is hard. I think, for me, I just try to aim to eat as many vegetables as I can and just try to stick to that. And then we do eat clean meats, organic, free range, wild, meats. I would say I eat 4 to 5 servings a week. That's what, like if you talk to Chris Work, he says I'll have like 2 servings of meat a month, maybe, or he calls it animal protein even.
Right.
But I just, with my family, we always have family dinners, and usually I'll serve meat, and for whatever reason, it's just like struggling to get my kids to eat vegetables. If they just were to eat vegetables for every meal, that would just be a nightmare for me. They eat really well, but they're little still, they still kind of are getting used to some of this food and salads. And so I don't know. I would love to hear an honest opinion of someone who has 3 young children, who lives this lifestyle, and, who's the mom. And I just would love to really hear, I don't know if there's anyone else out there. So if anyone's listening to this, and that's you, please contact me at my blog, because I wish I had all the answers. It's a real struggle for me here and there, but just have to try to, I feel like I have to uphold this standard because I am out there in public on my blog, and it's hard, to do that all the time and to drag these people who didn't really ask for any of this into it. We really have to eat all that all the time, Mom, and my husband wants to go out to dinner. So anyway,
it's interesting because you're going against the norm, but really the norm is unhealthy. So your norm is actually the way it should be, but it almost goes against the grain because it's not what everyone else is doing. I know I've run into that a lot, but I think what I've done that's really helped is to involve the kids to cook in the kitchen. And my daughter got really into looking for really interesting vegan videos on YouTube, and we make salad dressings with turmeric root and ginger and just really neat stuff. And you just have to get creative. Make it like an adventure to find new and interesting flavors and recipes. And
it's like almost by I've noticed just by kind of releasing my hands and releasing my grip on my kids. My daughter, my 3-year-old, started eating kale out of our garden last summer, just eating it. I thought it was a bunny rabbit. She was eating it, and then I looked out there one day, and she was picking off the tops of the baby kale, and she was eating it. And I said, "It's Annabelle. Annabelle's the one eating all the kale."
But see, that's interesting that a child would naturally want to do that.
Yeah, but yet when I put, certain vegetables on her plate, she's just so resistant to it. She cries. There's very rarely a night where we don't have tears at dinner, trying to, and that's stressful for me. I'm just being completely honest. Our oldest daughter, she's 7, and she has just recently gotten really into making her own salad. And she, puts a little too many cranberries in it sometimes, but and raisins. But you know what?
The sweet part,
If that's what helps her eat the lettuce and the carrots and the tomatoes and the things that she's also putting in there. She'll eat the whole thing. So it's a journey, and you just learn as you go and see what works for you.
So your oldest daughter is how old?
She's 7.
She's 7. Okay, so your children are pretty.
7, almost 4, and just turned 2 yesterday.
Okay, wow. So you still have a lot on your plate, and I guess that's staying the course when you have children that young must be difficult.
Yeah, it is. Like I was just saying, for all those reasons that, mainly just I think being tied down with kids, my husband wants to go out to dinner and get out of the house, and it's just, there's 2 restaurants that I can really eat at, Jason's Deli and get the salad bar there.
Right.
And then Chipotle maybe, and even then I don't, it's still, you can get, a pretty good, you can even get vegan at Chipotle if you wanted to, but tired of eating Chipotle or Jason's Deli every time you go out.
I'm with you because that's what's near me too. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It is a struggle, and then you end up wanting to eat at home.
Yeah.
I guess maybe there's finding adventure in other things other than food and.
Yeah, we talked about that, but then you got to pack everything up. I was like, why don't we go have a picnic at the park? I'm like, this is so much work, having to pack up everything, and then you can't, you can't really, we try not to do too many sandwiches. We don't want, I don't know. Like I said, I would love to hear the person that has all the answers. I guess I'm either in the process of being that person, so I can write the book one day on all this, on dealing with motherhood and the healthy, anti-cancer diet, or I don't know. We'll see what happens in the next few years, the story I have to tell. So.
And then you were also talking about your husband through this journey and how a support person can be a positive and also a stressor. Do you want to talk about that? Tell us what your experience was with that.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a lot already, about how the support person really has to be the support person. And I think that, like, as far as you can't bring, don't be leading that person down the wrong path. Don't be trying to tempt them with, let's go ahead and get dessert tonight or anything like that. Like, you got to do that in your own time. Go do that with your coworkers or something. Don't bring your spouse into it, or your, whoever your partner is. I think that it is important, though, to have an advocate, and that especially depends on personality type. If you find that you're a strong-willed, I can do this on my own, I don't need anybody kind of person, you might be a little better off than someone like me. I was, more so I'm going to do everything the doctor says, and I didn't know, really. I think I was a little bit more of a victim back then, in that I felt like, all this is being done to me and poor me, and it's so hard, and he was just what I needed. I remember one time, I've told this story before, some people might have heard it, but one time I was in like the fetal position in my kitchen, about how I can't eat this stuff. I just am gagging and I'm throwing up and I feel so weak. And I was literally crying, like real big crocodile tears in my kitchen, crunched up in the fetal position, and I can picture it. And Kevin says to me, what, you just want to go do chemo? We're not going to have any kids. We're going to, you might or may not, it's going to completely destroy your immune system and your heart. And is that what you want? He just gave it to me hard, gave it to me, just spell it out for me, so honestly, and paint that picture. And I needed it. I was like, I just needed to hear that contrast from him.
Right. Yeah. Because it is a lot. It's a lot, and I'm sure you can hit a wall, because it's such a big life change and so much to take in and change and so much to digest. I'm sure it is really nice to have someone to help you out with that. But then, like you were saying, as time goes on, then it gets difficult because things get slackened up and people want to go out to eat and do things, and you're trying to stay the course in the long term, then it gets difficult.
Yes, yeah. So it just is a constant balancing act between between living your life and enjoying some of the little pleasures that life can bring and present to you, and also finding kind of new pleasures, finding things that the joy of food is not the same as when you could eat whatever you wanted,
right.
Or not when you could, but when you did, because we all know it comes with a price. So
when you're in ignorant bliss, right? 26, eating whatever you wanted, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or not even everyone's not 26, because I am shocked when I'm in the supermarket and I see what's in people's carts. So.
Oh, I know.
People are in ignorant bliss, yes, but that doesn't mean it's without responsibility.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation we could have another day.
Right. They just say prevention is really the key because, it's so much easier to prevent than to have to make changes while you're sick and dealing with the fear and everything else. which I'm sure you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was reading about Healing Strong also, and I thought it was really amazing to have a support group in the community where you can all connect and be support to each other and have a way to learn, because it's really hard to learn by yourself. You said your husband was helping in the beginning, but I think it's really tough when people are sick and they're looking for answers, and it's so hard to find answers while you're going through the fear and not feeling well and all that. So I think that's really great, and I saw that you were you helped write the leadership packet. So if somebody wants to start a group, there's a leadership packet, and you helped write that.
Yeah. Well, in 2012, Susie Griswold, who is now my good dear best friend, contacted me on my blog. She had just recovered from thyroid cancer using the Gerson therapy, and she was looking for other like-minded survivors, holistic cancer survivors in the Atlanta area, and she found my blog. And we ended up meeting one day at Starbucks, and I always say joke because we couldn't have anything there, so we brought our own green tea and stevia and had a meeting there at Starbucks using their hot water, and we just talked about our common interests, and we ended up the next week got our husbands together with us, and the four of us started talking about Susie. Really felt the strong, almost impression from above, like a divine impression that she wanted to start put on a holistic healing conference that was faith-based, that focused on the spiritual aspect of healing as well. And so we got together a couple weeks later with a couple more people, friends she had, and some other cancer survivors and other families affected by cancer. And we started meeting monthly talking about this dream of this conference, and it started to happen. And so we planned this whole conference in Susie's living room, and we had, I think it was close to 300 people come together in 2013 for the Healing Strong Holistic Cancer Conference and Retreat. And it was the very first time that people like Ty Bollinger and Dr. V and Chris Wark and Robert Scott Bell and who else? The Juice Lady, Sherry Calbone and Judy Seeger, and all these people got together for the very first time.
Wow.
At the conference, and it was really the foundation of what will become like the Truth About Cancer, and a lot of these conversations happened in that time. And so we felt, so honored to be able to host everybody, but we spoiled our participants with gifts and prayers. We had a night of worship. It was so beautiful. And then it ended, and everybody went home, and we were kind of like, okay, what do we do next? And we really waited, we had no idea what we were going to do for probably almost close to a year. And during that time, a group of women who met at that conference who were local here in Atlanta, in Gainesville, Georgia, they said, we don't want to stop meeting. And so they kept meeting every month. They got together, and we heard about this, and I said, Susie and I talked, and I said, it makes so much sense. Why would we do another conference when we can actually just work on equipping these groups with resources and a guide so that we can start these groups, and then we can have a database on our website where people can put in their zip code and, find a group in their area. And anyway, this is what ended up happening. And so around the time my third daughter was born, actually the time all my weird thyroid stuff started happening, what we believe is thyroid, I started writing the basis for the Healing Strong Group's leadership guide. And it basically teaches groups how to, leaders in their community, equips them and tells them this is how you start a group. These are the questions to ask. This is how you find a place to have it. This is the legal jargon. You don't want to say certain things because you can't legally say it, and just teaching them how to start these groups. And then we had a series about a year later. We had our test pilot group. We had 25 groups test out our curriculum, which at the time was only 6 lessons, so it was 6 months of curriculum. They went through that test period, gave us feedback. Then we went back and wrote 6 additional lessons. So now we have a complete leadership guide, 12 lessons that include a script. So basically the leader doesn't even have to think of anything. They could just read from the script if they wanted to. Most leaders, of course, are more educated than that and want to make each lesson their own. But
and this is all volunteer-driven, correct?
This is all done in Susie's office and on my couch, during time after the kids were in bed or, little babysitter time here and there. Yeah, I mean, crazy what we've accomplished, and we've just been prayerful through the whole thing. And we just think it's been all God. Like, we have these tiny little efforts, we put them in, and it's just grown to be what it is now. And we're currently adding 70 new groups to, I think it's going to put us over 100 groups in the United States, Canada, Europe, a couple in Australia. It's just crazy.
And the groups are all volunteers.
And so all the leaders are volunteers, correct. They each leader is required to fill out an application on our website that just says that they will, honor our beliefs and our principles of, what as a foundation who Healing Strong is, and that they that they have to pay. It's $79 plus shipping and handling, depending on where you live in the world. That can vary. And you get this complete leadership guide with affirmation and scripture cards and recipes and like hundreds and hundreds of resources, guided lessons for 12 months. And then it also comes with support from our Healing Strong volunteers, from myself, Susie, quite a few other group leaders that are put in their time, Christine Holcomb and Tia Tomlin, some of these lovely ladies, Marcia Dickey.
That's wonderful.
These are the people that are really, putting in tons of work. Anyway, it's just been a complete miracle, pretty much, seeing that we're all volunteer. We're hoping.
I wonder if there's any virtual, like if anyone can log on while a group is going on, if there isn't one in our area.
Yeah, actually, one of our groups, we have a website for our group leaders called Healing Strong Connect that you can, I think it's the Marietta Healing Strong group that has a, if anyone's interested in seeing a live streaming Healing Strong meeting, our Marietta, Georgia group does a live Facebook feed, I think, for every meeting, so that if people can't go, they can at least tune in and listen.
Wonderful.
And I have
That's
a
great
feeling
for
that
everyone to hear.
our other groups, I'm sure, are going to be, following suit. So
I love the FIA affirmation that you do at the end of every meeting.
Yes, so our FIA affirmation, Susie, we are talking about the healing. The very last lesson that I wrote was the one on spiritual and emotional healing, because it just wasn't coming to me. And at the time, like I was telling you earlier, these last 2 years, there's just been another healing season for me, and some of these strange symptoms with hormones and stuff like that. And I was just feeling real low and uninspired. And just one day, it just all came to me. And I said, I love, there's this song on the radio at the time, this is like 6 months ago, called Fire. It was Pink, the artist Pink, and she sings, just like fire. I don't know the words, but I just know the part where she says fire, and I said, ooh, fire. And so we created this affirmation using the letters FIYAA, fire.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, you want me to say it or you want to say it?
If you can say it.
I have it right here. It's I will forgive myself and others, invite God into all aspects of my life and healing, yield to the needs of my body during this healing season, accept my diagnosis and symptoms as temporary, and abandon negative expectations and think possibilities. And
I love that. Think possibilities. Yeah. It's so like calming, like, let's calm down, stay in the moment, be positive, and heal. It just feels like a very healing, really awesome thing to say. I really loved it.
That's great. I'm so glad. I actually, the help of one of our editors, Holly Knowles, and Susie, we kind of revamped the original FIA to be what it is today, and I think it's pretty perfect. So
it is. I mean, I think I'm going to say that to myself every day.
Yeah.
I think anyone that's suffering from anything, that's a wonderful affirmation.
Yeah.
So you have a really neat Facebook page, and you're on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. I was looking at your Facebook page. You have a lot of products on there that you love, and recipes, and just a lot of things that have worked for you. I thought it was really great. I hope people check it out because there's a lot of great information on there.
Yeah, definitely. I've been doing a lot of Facebook Live lately because I haven't had a ton of time to actually blog, and blogging is a very lengthy, can be kind of a time-consuming process, especially if you want to link like the correct scientific studies to your writings, and I just haven't had a ton of downtime for that lately.
Right.
Facebook Live and just giving the practical, like, this is how I make dinner, and this is how I, prep my food in the morning, and this is how I make food for that's how I make a family-sized smoothie, stuff like that has been helping a lot. Just connect with people that are part of the community that I love, and that I'm, I don't know, fallen into this, like, sort of, I don't even want, if you want to call it a leadership role, but, I just, more so, I'm constantly learning myself. And I love connecting with like-minded people, so that's what Anti-Cancer really is.
That's what we're doing here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're over 8 years out now, right? You've been cancer-free for over 8 years?
Yeah, eight years, yeah. It will be 9 years in September of this year, so.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if people can check your social media and your information and see what you've done. There's great stuff on there, and they can also check Healing Strong.
Healing Strong, yep, healingstrong.org, and then you can do /groups or just healingstrong.org and click on groups.
Wonderful.
And you can see all the groups that we have. I think we have over 50 groups right now on our map, and we're adding 70 more. So that will be next month. We actually are part of my role right now, since the leadership guide's complete, is just to call on new group leaders and say, hey, welcome to Healing Strong. And I had one lady, it was funny, her name is Brooke, so Brooke's listening. Hey, Brooke. And she said, she talked to me the whole time, and I was telling her about resources that she could use, and I was telling her Chris Beat Cancer, and there's of course All the Truth About Cancer series. I said, and I have a personal blog that has some great stories, and recipes and suggestions on there, Anti-Cancer Mom. And she goes, oh, you're the Anti-Cancer Mom. Funny. I was like, yeah, but it's, I'm really just a mom staying home with my kids.
You're a mom with a message.
Yeah, I'm a mom with a message. So, yeah, that's it.
That's wonderful. Very powerful message. Well, we're so glad that you're doing so well and that you've decided to take what's worked for you and to let everyone hear about your message. And it's great to hear about Healing Strong, too.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to talk about that, because I know that we'd love to, do a whole podcast on Healing Strong, but it's nice to just be able to talk about it today and let everyone know about it ahead of time.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Courtney, and we've all enjoyed listening to your story and what's worked for you and what resources people can connect with. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Beat Cancer Answer. If you learned just one thing today about how to prevent, cope with, or beat cancer, then we have succeeded in our mission. For more information or assistance, visit our website at BeatCancer.Org. Remember to sign up for our educational email series and get your free gift. Join in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, where you can meet others who think just like you. We appreciate all of your feedback and love your suggestions. Please also remember to rate us on iTunes. Your positive ratings help us to get discovered so we can save more lives. Thank you again for listening, and best wishes for good health from all of us at BeatCancer.Org.